Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
I'm slightly ashamed to say that intro video took me a lot longer to make than I first set out for it to take. But however, just a tester. I'm trying new things before obviously the start of the new season. But yeah, hello and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. This is your Monday night show. The season is over. The season is finished. We can all relax for a couple of months and try and reset, get our heads into it. But yeah, the season has finished. The season has finished in failure. Rangers failed to win the league. Rangers fail to win the Scottish Cup, and all we have to show for our efforts this season is the League Cup. Maybe the men could take a wee bit of what the women have got, and maybe that might help them win a wee bit more. But however, I am joined tonight by Connor, Bryan, and Kerr. Bryan, fresh off the women's show. How are you, my friend? It's been a while.
Yeah, very well, very well. Good pod on the women's. Speaking about obviously them beating Hearts 2-0. Lots of contract extensions for the women. Multi-year deals. First time for a while. Well, first time that most of the all the deals are multi-years. It's not just the usual 1 year deals. So the manager Joe Potter is obviously fancying and liking a lot of the players that she's working with. So it's going to be an exciting season, sort of summer for the women. There's obviously going to be a few leaving, which is going to be tough, but the future is certainly rosy on the women's side, and we're all looking forward to next season.
Not so rosy on the men's side, if we're being brutally honest with ourselves, but we'll come to that. Connor, how are you? By the way, I think I'm going to really have to start paying you overtime, Connor.
Listen, I mean, I will, if you want to negotiate a healthy payment, then I will see if you can afford me. No, all good. Obviously, still, a bit disappointed after the weekend and stuff. But, looking forward as well is always the way. See what happens in the next couple of months. Looking forward to the Euros as well, which I understand might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I actually think for a change, the international stuff might be a nice distraction for everybody.
You know what? It's football. And it's football when there's no football on. Kerr, how are you?
I'm alright, Martin. Like that new intro. Quite jazzy for yourself, Martin. Did somebody show you that? No, I'm alright, Martin. got over the weekend. We have to look forward, but it's a bit of deja vu, isn't it, sitting here. We didn't kind of similar last season before, so let's just hopefully next year we'll not sit in this position, but you just take it a day at a time.
I mean, Kerr's got a point. And by the way, actually, I should say hello, welcome everybody watching, everybody in the comments, people on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If this is your first time here and you haven't already, then whatever platform you're on, please do subscribe or follow. And of course, if you're on YouTube, give the video a like and retweets on Twitter and shares on Facebook and all that good stuff. And please do get your comments in, and I will bring up as many as possible. Clearly, with it being the end of the season, there might not exactly be millions to talk about, but we will try our best. So if you get your comments in, then I will try and bring up as many as I can. Brian, obviously you weren't on the reaction at the weekend. Me, Connor, and Kerr were. If we're looking back at that game, symptomatic of our season?
Pretty much, I'm afraid. It was a to be honest, it was a really poor game. Both goalkeepers didn't really have much to do. It was just, I said to somebody after about, was it 25, half an hour, and I says to somebody, this is a 1-0 job. Whoever for me was going to score the first goal was going to win. And I didn't know who was going to score the first goal because, there wasn't really anything in the way of chances. I mean, it's just, as you just said, symptomatic of the season. Just falling, just typical fashion, falling short at the sort of last hurdle sort of style. We get ourselves into good positions, cup finals, get ourselves ahead in the league, and the players have let us down, I'm afraid. And I do think the sort of end of the season was symptomatic in when the Goldson stuff all kicked off, when he was dropped. I think something clearly happened for me in the squad, and a lot of the players just weren't in the fight in the end of the season, I'm afraid. And it's a lot of guys are leaving. Obviously, their heads are maybe somewhere else. And of course, the manager, unfortunately, has no real sort of say. He can maybe sit down players and ask them to stay, but at the end of the day, if a player's made his mind up he wants to leave, there's not much you can do. So I'm afraid I'm not really wanting to partial any blame on the manager, because I'm afraid he was left with a bit of a shit show, in the sense that he was given the hand he was dealt, and he couldn't really do much in January because of obviously the funds that were spent in the summer. So it's going to be a huge job for him in the summer, and it's going to be a lot of players leaving and hopefully a lot of players coming in.
I mean, there's going to be massive change, Connor. There has to be massive change at this football club. And look, before we come to all that, and just back onto the game and the kind of season as a whole, I've seen people saying it was a poor game, like Brian says there. It was always set up for a 1-0, and even going deeper than that, there's been people saying for a while, has there been disharmony in the squad? Is there a leadership group that's trying to take over because of the way that the season finished? But let's be honest, Connor, it's been the same for 3 years.
Well, it has been, yeah. I mean, the reality is that we failed to capitalise on winning the league title in 2020-21. And what ultimately is happening is the outcome of that now, because all of a sudden we didn't get our transfers right over the last couple of years. I think we're all about that. I think, last year we were having the conversations with the likes of Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos, and how they'd all sort of stayed a bit too long and had kind of down tools by the time, the tail end of last season it came. We then had a summer rebuild there that was, we were hoping, and to be fair, we were full of anticipation and hoping, and there was a genuine excitement around it, because you thought, right, we're having a proper clear out, we're going to bring in all these players and we're going to have a right go at this. And it didn't work out. The players we brought in, most of them, not all, but most of them, not good enough. obviously exceptions to the rule, like I said, Danilo and stuff like that, because he's not really had the opportunity due to his injuries to really show. So he's probably somebody that stays about for next season and see what he can do then, and then you can make a judgment call. But yeah, it's been a combination of poor decision making on our part at varying levels of the club, whether it's in the appointment of Michael Beale in the first place, whether it's Michael Beale's decision making and the players he identified and brought in, missed opportunities as well, because despite all of that, we had ourselves sitting in the box seat, and we can't forget that 5-6 weeks ago, we had it in our hands, and unfortunately the same people, the same players who've been doing it for too long, in my opinion, and been getting away with it for too long, have let us down again and have shown that they don't have the mental capacity to go over the line when it really matters. And that's something that it simply has to change. And you only change that by getting rid of some of those players. I appreciate, Kerr said it before we come on, you can't just get rid of a full squad. So some of these players are going to have to stay and be part of it next season. But hopefully we can get rid of enough of the deadwood to create that new impetus and mentality. Look, I think as well as for a bit of balance, you can't just purely batter the team constantly, and because there's been elements of luck that we've not had either. But we haven't had the rub of the green. Even if you look at the Old Firm games, 2 red cards, 3 goals chopped off against you. And I'm not complaining about most of it.
No, but you bring that kind of stuff up, Cormac, you try and discuss that kind of stuff,
yeah.
And it's just, conspiracy theory, blah, 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 which is ironic coming from a certain set of supporters.
It is. And the reality is we look at it differently. They see it as a conspiracy. We just see it as, it's been a bit of bad luck. Certainly, I think...
And honking refereeing. If we're being honest, referees in Scotland are honking. And that's, Conor, I'll qualify that by saying, I'm not saying they're honking just towards us, because you do the Scottish Football Show.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen plenty of probably horrific refereeing decisions. It's not just us that gets it, it's every team that gets it. And that refereeing Saturday spoiled that game.
Yes, he did. And there isn't any getting away from that. And look, it is across the board, as you say. There's no getting away from it, including, man, have to say it, including Celtic. There's been some honking decisions went against them this season as well. You only need to look at Tynecastle when a penalty is given against them for a handball that is ridiculous, basically, and there's no other way to describe it. And we've called that out plenty of times in Scottish Football Show, myself and Kerr and the other guys involved in that. And when you don't get that luck, it hurts as well, because look, most of the decisions, I will admit, the 2 red cards in those games are both red cards. I think one of the goals being disallowed was the correct decision. The other 2, I think, are extremely subjective and are almost the kind of 50-50 ones where you think that might go for you. Sometimes it might not go for you. It just so happens to be none of them did go for us. So it doesn't excuse or take away from any of the other aspects that we're talking about. Of course it doesn't. And I'm not wanting to sit here and make any excuses, but you need that over the course of a season as well. Sometimes you need a bit of luck. And we haven't had that. And compounding that with the poor mentality that our players have got, the recipe for disaster.
Oh, listen, and Kerr, just trying to remember Kevin. When the refs make a wrong decision that's game changing, they should lose a chunk of their wage. These referees are rich anyway. Let's not kid ourselves. They've all got very, very good jobs. I don't agree with. I know maybe there's a wee bit a sarcasm. Did I freeze there? Did I?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Well, my apologies. My internet seems to be going. So one of you is free. We'll just need to jump on the hosting bandwagon if it goes. But Kerr, refs' decisions can be game changing. I felt
he's went again.
He's away again.
Away again, isn't he? Connor, you want to dive in or will I? Oh, it's me. Thanks very much. Oh no, he's back.
Will we try this for a third time? Although I'm getting that Wi-Fi signal thing, and I've got my computer plugged into my Ethernet, so it's definitely not my fault. This is you fibre. Get it sorted. I'll try this for a third time, Kershaw, before I cut out. Nick Walsh on Saturday completely lost that game. Started giving some crazy decisions that made absolutely no sense. There was goals chopped off. There was yellow cards for perfectly good tackles. There was no fouls for what were clearly fouls. And there's not even a debate about some of them. So yeah, he completely lost the game. It wasn't a great spectacle anyway, but he certainly didn't help.
It wasn't a great spectacle, but a lot of cup finals aren't, Martin. People forget that. People always think cup finals are going to be great, but people don't want to lose a game in a cup final. They want to win the cup, so sometimes it's have a blanks first, and that's what happened. But referees, I don't think referees are biased, honestly. I don't. I know there's a good case in point you can think there, but I don't. I just think they're awful. And I don't think they're going to get any better because considering who they put in charge. But I think the problem with Scotland is...
Which is a disgrace, by the way, Keir. It's a disgrace.
It is a disgrace, but it's friends in high places, Martin. Unless that changes, Scottish football's not going to change. That appointment's going to make Scottish football probably stagnate because Willie Collins not got a clue what he's doing and he's going to teach the other refs the same clueless stuff that he knows. But I think people talk about bias, blah, that stuff, and they've got listen, if that's your opinion, that's your opinion. I can't change that. I'm not giving you mine. But I just feel, if you look back, our managers come out and said a few times it's not the referee's fault. They've got a job to do. So so our board can't then go out and say blah 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 because the manager's saying there's nothing. It's just decisions that's happened. Whereas on the other side of the city, they've been doing this for over 20 years, complaining. And when you say something long enough, people start to believe it. Doesn't matter what you're saying, but people start to believe it. And I just feel now, yeah, and Celtic has bad decision against them. Every club in Scotland, they'll get bad decision against them, especially VAR. And they always know my opinion in VAR. I think it's a pile of dog shit because they're giving guys who are the good referees a tool to try and improve the game, but actually make it worse for decision making because they're not got a clue about the rules in the first place. And giving them this tool, they think if they're getting sent to TV, then they've missed something. And they might not have missed anything. They might have made the proper decision in the first place. So I just feel VAR's not helped them. VAR's actually made Scottish football worse. But I also feel when VAR gets brought into, especially an Old Firm game, we're always in the end of a bad call. And some of the calls, you can already say, right, that's maybe a fair call, maybe the way it should have went. But I just feel it's easier to give the call against Rangers than it is to give against Celtic. Just what's been going on over the last 20 years. And you also get intimidation, the referees, blah, blah, all that stuff that we as a club don't do, but they are. And this is not an excuse for losing, by the way. This is just about referees and about VAR and about intimidation, about living in the rest of Scotland, stuff like that. But it's not an excuse for losing the league or losing the cup. That's down to our players and individual mistakes. But over the piece, I just feel the referee in Scotland's not going to get any better.
Absolutely not. I think there was there not discussions with the SFA from a former Premier League referee to come up and take over and do that job, and then decided to go with Willie Collum, which is unbelievable for me. And look, Brian, I don't think it's too out there to say that they've had the better of the decisions in the Old Firm games this season. It's a shame that you can't actually just have an open and honest, frank talk about stuff like this without being accused of using it as an excuse for losing. Because at the end of the day, even if you get bad decisions against you, if you're good enough, you'll go on and win the game. And we haven't been good enough. Celtic have been better. They've went on and won the league. They've absolutely 100% deserved to go on and win the league because we have not been good enough. But you can still at the same time turn around and say the big moments and the big Old Firms, they've had the decisions.
There's no way, you can't dress it up any other way. The start of the season, Dessers gets his foot in front of the defender kicks him, Dessers wins the ball, goes on, we open the scoring. Well, we think that we open the scoring. Funnily enough, it's happened a few times with a certain team that they get their leg in front of a defender, the defender kicks it, suddenly that's a penalty for that certain team. I've always liked to not give the referees too much abuse. I've always very, very much been the opinion of that it's a difficult job, and but I have totally, after seeing that episode of refereeing and officiating on Saturday, it's almost to the point I feel now that some of the officials, I'm not saying them all, but some of the officials are almost scared to give fouls against them because they're for fears of what's
happened. Can I just play devil's
advocate
on that point, Brian? Can I just play devil's advocate? Can it not just be that they're simply not good enough? And when there's VAR calls or whatever, they seem to have sorted it down south, and occasionally up here now. Not every time they go to the screen do they change their mind. But is it not just a case that our referees just simply aren't good enough and don't make the right calls?
There is a argument to suggest that. Don Robertson got 2 chances to look at, can't remember, was it Sterling? And then later down the line, we find out that was actually a wrong decision to send him off. It should have been a yellow. So, I mean, as the guys have said, and everybody else, and is speaking about it as well, there's been far too many incidents this season in the big games where folk are just flabbergasted by some of the decisions, and they're just totally perplexed. Sterling getting booked for that tackle on Saturday, well, if that's a booking, we may as well just pack up and go home, because that was one of the best 50-50 tackles you'll ever see. Scales pushing Sterling over just outside the box. The linesman's literally 15 yards away, doesn't give it. As I said before, I'm at the point now where you get to a situation where I think the officials are so scared to go against them. And it's hard. I'm just saying it how I feel and see it. I'm seeing some of the games myself, and it's just flabbergasting some of the decisions that they come out with, and I can't dress it up any other way, I'm afraid. I think they're just genuinely scared to give them, to give us any decisions against them. That's just how I feel now.
Martin, sorry, I'd just like to say, since we came out at halfway through the season and come in and we pointed out Column's mistakes, and then the club said we didn't want him to referee our games, blah, blah, blah. Next minute he's in charge. As in involved in that, it's like, well, he's now the man in charge of the whole thing after we go for him.
No, I don't think so. I genuinely don't think it goes as deep as that. And this is just my opinion. I could be 100% wrong, and I've got a funny feeling that loads of people in the comments will probably disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to have a conversation and agree and disagree and try and find solutions. I don't think it goes as deep as that, Connor. I don't think there is a genuine, there is certain referees who have a Rangers persuasion, there is certain referees who have a Celtic persuasion, there's certain referees who have a St Mirren persuasion, a Hearts persuasion, etc., etc., etc. And I genuinely, and maybe I'm just being naive, but I genuinely do not think there's any referee in Scotland who goes on the park and goes, I'm 100% going to give more decisions in this team's favour compared to that team. When it comes to the 50-50 moments in the heat of the battle, when they're making a split-second decision, do they subconsciously maybe give the wrong decisions from time to time? Quite possibly. Everybody's human. I absolutely get that. I don't think it goes as deep as them going and being purposely biased.
No, I don't believe that either. I think it is it's mass incompetence. There's no getting away from that at all. I think the difference is that we aren't as well versed, I suppose, at how you deal with it and how you sow those seeds as maybe Celtic are, because I think if you look at that Hearts game with Celtic, for example, and the comments Brendan Rodgers made after it, where he directly breached the rules about accusing referees of being incompetent or bias, because he actually used the words incompetence. But what he done was he made the story all about John Beaton, who wasn't even the referee for that game. He was the VAR official. Now, yes, he sent it to the monitor, no doubt about it, but it's Don Robertson who's made those decisions, just as he did when he went to the monitor and looked at the Sterling tackle again that we mentioned earlier and still deemed it a red card. It's him that's went to the monitor and made the wrong decision. John Beaton only guided them there and said, yep, you need to go. But because they know the story there that they can sow is John Beaton, that's the bigger headline. to be created, because there has always been narratives around John Beaton and Bobby Madden, the two of them in particular. In fact, that John Beaton, because obviously in his younger days, apparently was seen in Rangers pubs and what have you. And fair enough, referees are human beings like the rest of us, and you can't expect them to be robotic and not have teams that they grew up supporting, because we all did in Scottish football.
Scotland's a small country, Connor.
Well, exactly, but you expect, obviously, when they go into the pitch, I think that does go out of the window. But you can sometimes pull wee strings here and there and just plant the seed to detract, because actually the story that weekend could just as easily have been that Celtic missed the opportunity to go top of the league because we get beaten the Saturday and they had the chance to get it back in their hands. They didn't play well, even with 11 men, and then they got beat. But because of the decisions that happened in that game, it became the story's all about John Beaton and his quote-unquote bias against Celtic. Now, I don't believe in doing that sort of stuff. I don't believe in accusing referees of that because, as I say, I think they're just incompetent across the board. I mean, you only need to look at the whole of Scottish football to see that, the decisions that get made on a weekly basis. But
do I know what's ironic about all that? Do I know what's genuinely ironic about all that? John Beaton is genuinely a Motherwell supporter. That is what's completely ironic about that whole situation. It's absolutely. I mean, I could sit here and I could name you 2 referees who are 100% dyed-in-the-wool Celtic fans, and I could name you 1 referee who is absolutely dyed-in-the-wool a Rangers supporter. But you wouldn't know which one was which if I told you. Well, you would know one, right? But you wouldn't know that the one who's a Rangers supporter is with some of the decisions that he makes, but he's 100% a dyed-in-the-wool Rangers supporter. So there is referees who support all different teams, all different clubs. I find it astonishing that throughout most of this season, after every weekend, there is certain fan bases who scream and shout about conspiracy theories against them, about how everybody hates them, and it just seems to never stop. By all means, have the discussion that we're having. Discuss the referees, discuss their performance, discuss the whole conspiracy thing, but do it in a way where you're making sense. Don't just come screaming and shouting with your tinfoil hat on.
What I was going to ask you was, if you role reverse the strips on Saturday and the result stood as it was, the decisions were exactly the same, just as I say, just the teams were reversed, how do you think the media would have reacted to the decisions and the result? Well,
I mean, we had that 2-hour long pod about the media in Scotland, Kerr. And the media in Scotland, I don't know how we've ended up on this tangent, by the way, right? But the media in Scotland, Kerr, do not help, because you have cheerleaders. You've got cheerleaders for us. They're just not as good as the cheerleaders for Celtic. Let's be brutally honest about it. The cheerleaders for Celtic are far better at getting their point across. And yeah, the referees are under so much scrutiny, so much pressure in this country, and the media do nothing to help. If anything, the media exacerbate it. Big word for the day.
They do in phone-ins and shows like that. They like to cause controversy. They like, because it gets viewers, it gets this. They make talking points out of things that pull on the talking points, but they make it up. But it just shows you the kind of country. I know you said earlier, Martin, Scotland is a small country. It's a small country, but it's a divided country, and it always has been, especially when it comes to football. And it's never going to change. I know you can say bring in referees for A, B, and C other countries, but that still doesn't clear up. If you bring somebody into some country, they'll say, well, he's this persuasion even though he's for Spain, or he's this persuasion even though he's for Italy, because that's the way you think when you follow a football team, especially in the rest of Scotland. So, it's never really going to get better. I mean, I grew up, obviously, well before you, Martin. And
1940s, 1930s, something like
me
that.
and Brian will remember, like, when David Murray was at Rangers. The media were well.
I remember when David Murray was at Rangers. What age do you think,
12 in the mind. But when David Murray was at Rangers, he had the media kind of well versed. I mean, the media, that's when the premium people actually bought newspapers, and before social media. Social media probably made it worse. You go into Twitter, Facebook, and you get people screaming constantly about things. But back then, you got your stuff in newspapers and radio stations, and it's not going to change. I don't really know how it works, but it's not going to change in Scotland. It's just the way Scottish football is. So it is in the only thing I want to change is the way Rangers are. I want to see we started some kind of challenge. We need to go behind and actually win stuff. And I know we've not done that for a while. I know somebody can say we'll win the League Cup. That's fair enough. But I mean, challenge for the league. And that's not been happening for a long time. I don't think it's because of referees. I don't think it's because of bias. It doesn't help us, but I don't think some of the decisions. But I don't think that's been an issue with the Rangers Football Club. I think the main issue has been the board level down.
And we will come on to discuss the board. Connor, if we just jump back to the Scottish Cup, that's Clement's fourth Old Firm game.
Yep.
3 losses and a draw. I think the thumbnail, I think I put Clement's Old Firm issue. I believe I put that. I've got such a bad memory. But it is starting to become an issue now, and we can sit here and we can make all the excuses of they're not his players. He didn't get much in terms of recruitment in January. You know, you can only pee with the what you've got and all that good stuff. However, it is 4 games now where there's been some questionable decisions in terms of tactics, in terms of team selection, etc., etc. And pretty much, apart from maybe that Scottish Cup final, every game's kind of followed the same pattern. So is it starting now to become a bit of a serious issue for Clement?
Yeah, it is becoming a real issue for him. I think, we all were sort of in agreement that his first one, it was at Parkhead. It wasn't too long after he came in the door, and we were all kind of like, okay, it's about as much of a free hit as you'll get in terms of there wasn't much pressure on him, just purely because he wasn't long in the door. He was still trying to get that rocket up their backsides after the disaster that was Michael Beale. So you kind of forgave him that one, but he's then in 3 after it, and you can't forgive him that because he's had the time with those players to try and instill something in them. Fair enough, he might make the case that at Ibrox from 2-0 down, they managed to show a bit of fight back and a bit of spirit to claw anything out of that game, which they did. But again, the same fallibles are there because you get yourself to 2-2 and you go and concede a minute later and you're 3-2 behind and you're chasing the game again. From a situation where if you don't concede that goal, you're probably going to win the game. These are the issues. That it just seems that whenever we look like we're getting close to it, whenever it looks like we might get over that line, we find different ways to lose constantly. And that's been the problem for a couple of years now. Where Celtic will always find a way to win, albeit, at the weekend there, it's a mistake for Jack Butland, which is a bit of luck for them, but they still found a way to win that game, even when we looked the more likely at that particular moment, and we find ways to lose it. And that has to stop. I think we're all a bit sick, fed up of hearing the same sound bites come out for manager after manager, for James Tavernier. James Tavernier's always disappointed and always hurt and always wanting to learn lessons, and then he makes the same mistakes the next time he plays them. So where's the learning of lessons? Where's the showing that you hurt? Because see, if you hurt that much, you can't wait for the next opportunity to play them because you want to put it right. And
that eventually has to come down, Connor. It's not the fact that they keep making the same mistakes. It's they're not good enough to overcome those mistakes. That's what it has to come down to eventually.
Eventually it does, yeah. And the unfortunate thing for Clement is, yes, some players will go out the door. Some of those players are still going to be there. James Tavernier will still be the captain of Rangers Football Club next season. Let's not kid ourselves on here. I know there's some people who want to think that he'll be gone. He's not going anywhere. So we're stuck with him at least for the next year. And who knows, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we've got a couple of incomings already. Hopefully, there'll be more to come and some players go out, and that might give Clement a chance to properly gel and build a team. First and foremost, you need a goal scorer. But, it's ridiculous that we can have these players here for so long with such poor records in that big game because, look, sometimes, right, swings and roundabouts, you get momentum and things go in your favour. So sometimes you have seasons like this where you just can't beat them. It does happen. Martin O'Neill done it in his early season in charge where he went, I think, 5 unbeaten. And to be fair, that's all off Dick Advocate and led to Alec McLeish coming in the door.
And then look what Alec McLeish done with the squad that he had.
Well, exactly. He turned the script, and managed to find ways to beat them. And that's what you've got to do, because when I look at Brendan Rodgers, I don't see him much different to Martin O'Neill, and that Brendan Rodgers has mastered the art of how to win those games. He's only ever lost one, and he's had a couple of draws in there, but he has won the vast majority of them because he finds ways to do it. Mainly because his team seem to have a better mentality and a more winning mentality than us. But Martin O'Neill had that same thing where he knew how to do it until we got somebody in the door who could change that. And the hope is that will come on eventually. The challenge for him is the first Old Firm next season is going to be at Parkhead, and that will then have been his fifth opportunity against them. But by that point, it will be with his squad, you would imagine. And so you've got to say he's going to be under pressure. But that's unfortunately the realities of being the Rangers manager. You have to beat them. Stephen Gerrard got the measure of it. He figured out how to do it. He managed to beat Brendan Rodgers before he left Celtic, and then went on a run where we had that full season in 2020 where we went, I think, was it maybe 6 or 7 games unbeaten against them, which was a good, strong period for us. But again, to go back to the very start, what I said, we didn't capitalise on it, and we fell right back into the old ways. So it's going to be tough for him. And I said it on Saturday, there's going to be people who will come for him if he loses at Parkhead in the first game of next season. People will want his head, even if he's won every game up until then, because they'll say he still can't beat them. So, yeah, it's a serious issue for him.
I don't know. For me, it all depends on how the start of the season goes. If Clermont, for example, gets us through the Champions League qualifiers, we get into the Champions League, we win every game up until we play them, and we're playing well, and we get into the game, and it's a scrappy game, or it's a really good game, and they manage to sneak it at their own place, people will be frustrated, people will be annoyed, and people will look back at the record, but they'll also look at what Clermont's doing and what Clermont's building. I think it then becomes the next one at Ibrox. If he fails to win at Ibrox, having failed to win at Parkhead, then I think there's going to be serious questions answered. But that's so far in the future. Jim Sloan, channel member, and always helps support the podcast. Thank you very much, Jim. Martin, you can't blame Big Phil. He's been firefighting from day one. Kerr, I understand that. I get that. And I get the amount of injuries that we've had this season. But if we take it back to what we were discussing there with the Alec McLeish era when he came in against Martin O'Neill, who, let's face it, that Celtic team, a bit like what Martin O'Neill done when he came into Celtic, that Celtic team was far superior to the Big X Rangers team. If we're just being 100% brutally honest, we weren't spending any money. It was all freebies. I mean, from memory, we had Nuno Capuccio in the Alec McLeish team, I think. But it was a really poor squad. It was a really bad time until Big X came in, and he managed to turn that around. And, so far, come on, if you look at his record since he came in, he's now got a worse win percentage than Beale, and he's failed to really lay a glove on Celtic.
He has, and I think that himself. I think you can tell with some of the interviews, he keeps reverting back to even himself to when he comes in. But you can only use that for so long, Martin. I know you said the other day 6 months, and I can. That's past. That time scales away. You can't keep reverting to the past. We do it as fans, obviously. But as a manager, you have to look forward. And yeah, he has been hampered. And he's got a wee bit of rope to play with. I don't think he's got as much as he should have. But he's also made a lot of mistakes and errors, especially against them. And he's like every manager does. Doesn't matter who you manage. You have your favourite players. You stick by your players. He's done well with dropping Golson. He's done well with leaving Lundstrom out the final, because I thought he'd have put Lundstrom myself. So they're two big key calls. And I know Connor says Tab will be there this season coming, next season. And he's probably right. He probably will be, unless an offer comes in we can refuse. But I think if that's the case and Tab's still underperforming, he's going to have to make that key call of saying, right, you might be club captain, but you're not in the park anymore until you either pick up your performances or you get something in better. And I think that he's going to have to do. He's going to have to look at the guys he's got to stay in, because we can't get everybody, and think who's the best that can gel with these new players. because also every new player we buy is not going to come in and hit the ground running. It's just not feasible. It never happens. You can buy 6, 7, 8 players. You might find 4 or 5 will come in and do really well. A couple might take time to settle, and one might be not suited to the Scottish game and might think, well, if they get rid of him again, just look at Lammers. Do you know what I mean? Lammers came in, didn't do a lot, and now he's in Holland and he's playing really well. So we have to wait and see, but Clement has to look at what he's got first and foremost and see what ones he can get rid of. Now, I would like Jack Butland to stay, but I don't think he will, because I think he's one of the ones when we have to sell to give Clement the money. That's why I like the board to come out, Martin. I don't want the board to come out and say, listen, we've got 20 million to spend, 30 million to spend. I just like the board to come out and say, there's been errors made in the past with recruitment, the managers' decisions, and here's what we're planning for the future. Because it might not be next season we get, but if you think under the manager with 1 or 2 windows we are moving forward, then we'll be happy. It's because every manager comes in, we don't seem to go forward. We seem to take 1 or 2 steps forward and then 3 or 4 back. And we want to stop doing that. So I think the club have to come out, because the club have gave managers money to spend. Maybe not Van Bronckhorst, but they'll get money to spend. So we can't say never. It's just how we chose to spend it. But obviously with Cotton there, it might be different. I like the kind of players we're linked with. They're different. Maybe we don't know a lot about them, but they're younger. So that's a good sign. But it's just a kind of wait and see. But I think Clement maybe has to hold his hands up for some of his mistakes, some of his tactical mistakes. I think the cup final got the tactics spot on, to be honest with you. They were just unlucky. But last few games against them, he's played too open. They gave him too much space. But I think against on Saturday, we actually done really well.
I think Saturday's just a case of that's where our luck is this season, because that was I would say 60-40 in our favour that game. Especially with second half, I thought we were the better team in the second half, but you don't get any prizes for being the better team.
It just shows you're bringing on McConville and Knight, and they're bringing on.
That's exactly it.
It's a quality of the game.
I mean, they brought in a striker in January who's went on and scored them goals. We brought in a striker who's actually a left winger and who didn't really contribute. There's your big massive difference. Their strikers on the end of Jack Butland fumbling the ball and puts it at the back of the net, and that wins them the cup. So yeah. Hello to brand new channel member AYK Videos Starbar. The only word that went into my brain in that was Starbar. I love a Starbar. I'm not going to lie. It's one of my favourite sweets. But thank you for the support. Thank you for becoming a member. Now remember, we'll be on a break for 2 weeks after this on the Monday night shows. But the members shows on a Thursday will continue to run. They will be every Thursday night, the members shows. So if you haven't become a member yet, and for $1.99 a month, what more can you ask for? A show every Thursday, and some good chat on the members tab on YouTube. So if you fancy that, $1.99 a month, then you click the join button below, or if you're watching on your phone, go into the description, and the link is there for it. I want to bring up this from RFC72, Brian. Great stuff. Blame our new manager who's managing the same set of players who are years older and have constantly failed against them. Makes sense. In no way, shape or form am I sitting here saying that the position that we are in is all down to Philip Clement, is down to the manager. But you have to be honest, and you have to look at decisions that a manager makes, and you have to criticise them when they deserve to be criticised, and then you have to scream for the rafters and be positive when they deserve to be praised. If you just go on and ignore something that's right in front of you, that's when stuff sneaks up on you and you go, how did that happen? But in no way am I, and in no way I believe, and you can speak for yourselves, or you, Connor, or Kerr, sitting here saying, not everything is Philip Clement's fault.
Certainly not. As I think the donation member said earlier, he's been fighting fire since he came in.
How dare you forget Jim Sloan's name?
Jim Sloan, that was it. Sorry, it was on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't remember. So sorry, Jim. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's had to put up with injuries. Like a key, as somebody else said in the comments, a key player in certain positions. He signs Cortez, who looks good, then gets injured. Certain things just seem to just not go for us this season. I mean, I think everybody could sort of, concur that the injuries this year has just been absolutely catastrophic. I mean, it's just been outright unbelievable, the amount that we've had to put up with. I can't remember what the amount is that we've had out at once, but I believe we had a whole team out at once, and it could even be more now because the news today that Dessers is missing the start of the season. So, and when you're left with all these key players not able to play because they're injured, you're then having to dip into the guys that sometimes we get a game if just for rest players and stuff like that. And a lot of the players that are injured are really key players, and it's just I feel sorry for the manager in a way because he hasn't picked. Well, look at the back four, for example. He's barely been able to pick the same back four 2 games in a row for goodness knows. And we've had seasons and teams where the back four hasn't changed virtually all season. But the manager this season has had to shift players in. Sterling to left back and Barisic, Yilmaz. We've had to do so much shifting around. We haven't had any consistency in the regards to team selections. I really feel sorry for the manager. I really do because he's came in and he's really been up against it. And to be honest, see if you were given the opportunity to see where we are now when he first came in, you'd have thought it was a great season. But when it transpired, as somebody else said in the comments, we actually got our noses in front, and then the team just didn't have the minerals to get it over the line. But no, I would certainly not be one to downcry the manager. Definitely not.
No, and look, Connor, Stuart Allison's making the point. It's difficult for me because I hate to go back to injuries and try and use that as any sort of an excuse for why we didn't do well. Had it been, normal times where we win a couple of leagues, they win a couple, we win a couple, they win a couple. Had it been normal times, then absolutely I would be sitting here saying, look, Connor, the injuries that we've had this season have been absolutely horrendous and have definitely, took something out of the squad, took something out of the team, and it has not helped us trying to win the league. But when they've won 12 out of the last 13 or whatever it is, then it goes beyond injuries. However, Stuart Allison's saying, are we ever going to address our injuries this season? Something is obviously wrong behind closed doors.
I mean, yeah, it is. I would slightly, just before I go into my input, I would slightly caveat the 12 out of the last 13 thing. I think that has to go through our heads because we weren't in the league for at least 4 of those years. So you can't control, we, albeit that was of a mess of our own making, but you can't control when you're not there. So if you're maybe looking at 8 out of the last 9 where we've been there, which is still atrocious. It doesn't make it any better reading. But, the injuries they've been a problem. Of course they have. There's no getting away from it. I think Danilo in particular is a huge blow. I think he's a massive miss because you talk about strikers. That's exactly what Danilo is. And we've lost him through injury for most of the season, which has left us with Dessers because we know the injury issues with Kemar Roof. We've known that for years. It was known before he came to the club. And yet Ross Wilson, who was in charge at the time, decided that this was the man to bring in. A guy who, listen, we all love, we all know is a great finisher when he's fit, but that we also all know he can't stay fit for more than 5 minutes. So there's no point in having a player like that there. I think it's unquestionable that there's been issues. Clearly, there's stuff needs to be looked at more in depth about it. I mean, Clement said when he first came in that's one of the first things he wanted to do. He wanted to get the medical records for all the players and have a proper look into them, bring back the ice baths and stuff like that, because apparently we weren't doing that under Beale, which is incredible, because for a professional football club, you would think a basic thing like that would be getting done. You've got Ryan Jack, as Stuart mentions there as well. I mean, again, another one who has been so stop-start. He's probably actually played more games for Scotland this season than he has for Rangers.
But in fairness, just on that, and I'll let you come straight back in, Connor, that's Ryan Jack. I don't know if that's got anything to do with our medical department or fitness or whatever. Ryan Jack just is always injured. And that's probably one of the biggest issues. We keep bringing in injury-prone players.
I mean, I agree with that. And certainly there's a number of them you've got to look at and say, come on. Clearly, as I say, Roof of these issues, Cifuentes, I have no idea. I mean, somebody better phone the police and report him missing, because God knows where he's disappeared to. Know that he was really doing much anyway. But Ryan Jack, I don't necessarily blame much on that to the board. I mean, probably should have got rid of him earlier, but he didn't come to Rangers with a history of having bad injuries. He was fit 99% of the time that he was playing at Aberdeen. That's what got him the move in the first place, because he'd done so well there. He came to us, and okay, that first season he was fit enough, scored a winner against Celtic. We can't forget that. But since then, has sort of fallen off a cliff when it comes to his fitness and his injuries, and that's a big problem. You do need to look at what are we doing on the training pitch that's causing so many of our players to be out injured. I get injuries happen in matches. Danilo's injuries are freak injuries. You can't do anything about them. He gets injured. Probably, if there's a good way to get injured, he gets injured scoring a goal for us when he jumps up for a big header and breaks his face. Which, by the way, somebody pointed out earlier in the comments, Celtic actually got a penalty against him, so a very similar thing. Difference being we scored, so you'd rather the goal. And then he comes back and Sorzlaw picks up another one. So it's a mixture of those things. As a recruitment department, whoever that is, because we don't really have a recruitment department right now, so whoever's doing the scouting has to make sure they're doing their homework and they're not bringing in players who are consistently injury prone, because it doesn't work. No point in having them in the book, you can't use them. So yeah, it's been a huge factor. That being said, for some of them, when they have come back in for their injuries, what have they done? Have they added anything? Really? You think not. So yeah, hopefully next season we do have less injury problems than we have had. But as I say, that comes down to make sure you get your recruitment right and having a decent medical department and knowing how to treat these players when they're warming up and when they're doing training sessions.
Can I just say as well, halfway through what you were saying there, I was just in negotiations to bring somebody back to the podcast, which has negotiations have concluded, and the person will be back on the podcast in due course. So I said that like I was on Sky Sports News and it was a big signing. But yeah.
Managed to put a big banner up, breaking news at the bottom of the screen there.
Breaking news, he's back. RFC 72, Kerr, the board, let's move on to the board, shall we, before we, because I want to touch on Leon Balogun as well, because I think we could probably be here all night if I don't hurry up. The board put us behind the 8 ball at the very start of the season, allowing Beale, an amateur, to run everything. Board isn't fit for purpose and don't have the capabilities to run a club like us. Is that fair, Kerr? And also, I think we're starting to see the reaction of supporters now in terms of, obviously, there was was it a bench for the guys who put the most money into Edmiston House, and it had Founding Fathers written on it, which for me, just don't put Founding Fathers on it. Put anything you want on it, but just don't put Founding Fathers on it. But there's been quite a severe reaction to that, and the board at the moment, slippery slope. Not that there's anything that we can actually do about it, because they're in charge.
You can't cite the board unless you get new owners coming in. So, listen, the board, you can look at the stuff that maybe it's not been great, maybe they should have done a lot better. Of course they have, but it's, like I said earlier, it's not like they never gave Beale money. But to trust somebody at a time, we were all sitting here thinking, who are we going for next? We were all excited watching it, like these different names, and we thought, he seems good. We're interviewing guys for our team pods, asking what's he like, and we didn't expect them to be like they have been when they've come through the door. Obviously, one get injured, one's done okay, and one's away back to Holland. The other one's done all but their Saventus. I think he's in Brazil somewhere. So we have spent a bit of money. It's just not been great. The problem is we have signed injury prone players in the past, and I both have to look at that as well. But we've also signed guys who weren't injury prone, but they came to Rangers and suddenly been injured. Brian mentioned Cortez, but you mentioned Ryan Jack, also Ridvan and Danilo and Seaman, guys who were injured before they came up as well. So there's something happening the way we train. I don't know what we do. So I think overall we have to look at profile of players when we're bringing guys in. Everything about them, not just injuries, but every single thing. But I think the board have to come out, like I said earlier, and just see what they're planning for us to do. I know as a club, their thing is to progress, like bring the club. They want to make money, and there's not a lot of money to be made in Scottish football. To be honest with you, there's not. You know yourself with TV rights and everything else. So there's not a hell of a lot of money, and we're asking them to spend money, but do we have that money to spend? I don't know. Is it Philip, come on, going to have to maybe
What was the
sell?
net spend, Kerr? What was the net spend for Michael Beale?
I'm not sure, but I'd have to go back. Like, I don't think it was as much as Michael Beale said it wasn't a lot, if I remember back, but I don't know exactly what he said. But it wasn't like he wasn't giving money. Do you know what I mean? But I think we've invested money, and obviously money but already been put away for Diamandi, because we have to put one out for him as well. So I don't know what the net spend was. I don't know how much we're going to spend. Much realistically, are we going to spend 20 million? We're going to spend more than that? I've not got a clue, because that doesn't just include transfer fees, that also includes wages and stuff like that.
You'll be lucky net spend, Kerr. You'll be lucky net spend if we spend 10 million. And that's me going, I think, well over the top. You'll be lucky if we get anyone.
Even if you say you sold Jack Butland for 10, are we going to reinvest that full 10?
No.
I don't know. So we have to get a wage bill down, because the wage bill was far too high for me. And you've seen that yourself. I know the Landries, but when you're bringing on players like Matondo and Wright, both of them shouldn't be at Rangers, but that's not their fault. They were given contracts. We tried to get rid of Scott Wright, didn't we? We couldn't, and he stays, and then he comes on to games at Hampden. Going at Hampden, we think he's actually okay, but in the big moments, you would rather bring on somebody else. So I think it's a hard job for the manager. I think he needs back to the board, but I think the board will back him to a point. But it just depends. You don't want to overspend either, and then you end up back in financial difficulties. And obviously, you bring the financial fair play into it as well, because we don't get involved in that a couple of seasons ago for overspending or something like that. So I think there's a lot we have to know for the board. And I think John Bennett has come out and speak. I think the last time he came out and spoke was he mentioned about we had this great squad, which didn't really count too much. That was a couple of years ago. So I think Bennett has to come out and speak to the fans, even if it's just to try and show the way they want the club to go. Doesn't have to give us figures and stuff like that, just to kind of tell us what way he wants us to go.
In fairness, the last time Bennett came out and spoke, it was a lot of tripe, and everybody called him out on his tripe. So, but Brian, channel member, is saying, look, when was the last time we heard from the board? And to be fair, I do think the fans deserve some kind of explanation from the board about this season. And I think we also deserve to know what direction the club's going in. I think certain members of the board, whether it's Bisgrove, whether it's Douglas Park, whether it's Bennett, whoever it is, Andy Smiley, whoever, need to come out and need to give us a direction. They need to give us a bit of positivity. Need to give us some hope, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think James Bisgrove has done the fan engagement thing that every few months. So I think that's probably the last time we heard from them.
But do an interview with Rangers TV, do an interview with Sky Sports,
do
an interview with BBC Scotland, do something that's going to get to the masses. These fan engagement things are brilliant, right? Absolutely fantastic, and they should carry on doing them. But see, just for once, let us all hear it. Let us all know what's going on. Stop putting stuff behind a paywall all the time, because fans can't always afford that. People are struggling right now. And because of ridiculous politicians, we're going into another election, which is then going to push inflation back up, and it's going to affect us all. So stop putting stuff behind paywalls and get out there and let the fans know exactly what's going on. Doesn't cost any money for them. Doesn't cost them their time. They're sitting on their fat arses making money anyway. So let us know what the hell's going on.
As I was about to say, yes, the last time we did hear from them was at that fan engagement, but they do need to, now the season is over, come out and speak to the fans and say, this is the plan for the summer. This is the plans for, well, whatever, basically, because the fans are, we're asking for it. And I think it's the least that we deserve. The support that we've gave the club as far as season tickets and as far as merchandise and as far as anything else. I think that as paying customers that we are, that we keep getting told, we deserve a lot more than what we're getting, which is nothing. We do deserve to be told what's the sort of plans for the
You've hit the nail on the head, Brian. Sorry, you've hit the nail on the head. That's all we are now. We're not fans anymore. We're just paying customers to this sport. For me anyway. And look, I get it. We need to make money as a club. football's changing. Football's a business. I'm not naive, right? But they could give you wee scraps here and there. You know, it could be a wee bit, you know, a wee bit that Oliver, please, sir, can I have some more? Can you just give me something? And it feels as though this board aren't interested in that. It feels as though this board really don't care. And do you know what? Somebody put something on social media, and I can't remember who it was, or I would name them. You know, they don't recognise this club anymore. And I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm looking at it and I'm going, do you know what? I'm starting to not recognise this football club anymore.
And that's you know, that's a fair point. There's a lot of disillusionment just now, and I think if the board came out and actually spoke and, you know, said what their plans are, it might alleviate some of those, you know, feelings. But
their plans are to release 6 shirts next season instead of 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's their plans for next season. Yeah, get another bench so more people can put money into Edmiston House and then get their name written fancy on a wee bench.
Yeah, but I mean, it's.
Sorry, I'm going to go on mute now because I'm.
it's. We've got to hear something. This, as I said, the season's finished. You know, there's a lot of reflection got to be done for the club, and I believe, you know, this is the time now for the board to come out and say, look, this is what, you know, we're thinking, this is what we're planning, this is what the manager's planning, this is what the scouting network's planning, and this is what the financial guys are, you know, planning. I think we do need somebody to come out and just speak and say, look, this is the project going forward now. You know, we went down this route, but I think with the new head of recruitment, with the new manager, we're going to go down this route. I think everybody deserves everything. You know, we've gave so much this season, and we deserve better. As simple as that.
Could it be, though, that the reason that they're not coming out and saying anything is because they don't actually have a plan and they've got nothing to say?
And if that's the case, Connor, that's even worse.
I agree, but I get that impression sometimes because I just feel like you get nothing from them. They're leaving the managers out there to drown because they're the ones dealing with it constantly, and they're getting nothing for the board. We only ever hear for the board realistically maybe 3 times a season right now, and that's when they're releasing the next new shirt that they want you to go and spend 70, 80 quid that you can't afford to go and buy on, and when they're going to sack the next manager and appoint the next one. That's the only time I ever hear from them. What is their plan?
Well, Douglas Park's plan is to keep his coaches going and to sell more cars, which, listen, that's his business. That's how he makes his money, and that's how he can supposedly help make us a better football team. I get it. He's a businessman at the end of the day. He cares about his business, and he cares about most things in his life. But he's a businessman, so I get that. But that's all Douglas Park cares about. That and getting his boy on the board. That's about all we get for that man. I don't particularly want to hear the man talk because I've heard him talk before. I used to work for him. But that's all Douglas Park cares about. What John Bennett is a blue nose through and through and through and through, right? A bigger blue nose you'll probably never meet in your life. However, he's also a businessman. He's also a money man. And James Bisgrove, lovely guy, great at his job. But again, I don't know where to go with this board anymore, Connor. And I feel as if I probably had this exact same rant at the end of last season and at the end of the season before that. And then not the season before that, but the season before that. It's non-stop. It's cyclical. It's doing my absolute nothing.
Well, look, absolutely. And the problem is, I mean, you even talked there about them being businessmen, right? Now, you know, I happen to have a minor business qualification, nothing much to tell about, so I understand a little bit about it. It isn't good business. Even, you know, I know it's a football club, but it's not a good business when you're running something that is constantly failing to succeed and bring in more money on the park. Because your bread and butter as a club, the most money you're going to bring in, other than your ticket sales and obviously extortionate prices for shirts and stuff like that, is going to be by winning trophies and qualifying for the big main European competition in the Champions League. If you fail to do that year on year, you're going to start making a loss because you're not winning anything. And this league title in particular is particularly lucrative because next year there is no automatic Champions League qualification, meaning that you're only guaranteed about £2 million for winning the league next year. Now, don't get me wrong, right? we can, of course, and this is the important part, and this is where they need to get it right and get it right early. You can recuperate some of that money if you can find a way of qualifying for the Champions League, because, of course, if we do that, that splits the pie and does dent slightly the amount that Celtic would get. But we can't do that if there's not a proper plan in place for the full structure of the club from top to bottom. How are you going to, what's, recruitment-wise, we've not really had a sporting director in since Ross Wilson left, because Michael Beale done that, and then he's left, now we've got come on, and you think, right, you need all of these things pulling in the same direction and coming together. For me to have a board sitting there lazily with this malaise over the club, watching failure after failure after failure, and not trying to address it in some way by themselves, just seems madness to me, because you're not going to make any money if the club isn't successful. And if the plan is, which I think it is at some point, to sell the club on, because I think Douglas Park and the rest of them ultimately want to turn Rangers into a saleable asset again so they can cash out for the club and let somebody else take over the wheel, which we all hope would be somebody that's got a few quid behind them, if we're being honest, but you never know. If that's the plan, then again, you're not going to achieve that if you're a failure on the park, because you're not going to bring in enough money to make it profitable. You might just keep above water, keep breaking even every year, and that will be enough just to keep you afloat. But just keeping afloat isn't what attracts potential buyers to a club. It's actually turning a profit and showing that you can do it sustainably. And we've failed to do that. And that, even if they don't care for the footballing aspect, which I'm sure, as you say, I'm sure Bennett does, because he is a blue nose through and through, but the others, even if they don't care for a footballing aspect, they should care for a business aspect, because if it's no success on the park, then it affects the bottom line in the boardroom.
It does. You and channel member, you have to speculate to accumulate. If we had speculated in January by a proper striker and brought in a proper defender, then, but it's almost as if the board are too scared to go out and just spend that wee bit extra money, which, after everything that's happened, I mean, that's a whole different conversation if you want to go down the money route. So I can maybe understand from a certain point of view the board being a bit more passive in terms of recruitment and stuff like that. But however, just final bit of business then, lads. Kerr, it's widely reported that Leon Balogun is set to sign a new 1-year contract extension. We've spoke a wee bit on the member show about Chef Day. Obviously, Cordoba looks as if he's coming in to do a medical. We'll speak more about that as and when we get more information. But just on this Leon Balogun thing, 36, 37, Leon Balogun. He's looked good in the games that he's played. But again, for whatever wage he'll be on, and I wouldn't imagine that he's coming back next season for a massive wage. Is that a good deal to do for a backup defender? Should he be backup defender next season, or if Leon Balogun starting most games, are we just stuck in that same cycle?
Yeah, 2 words, Davy Weird, but he was a lot older. But I will say is I think it's actually decent business, because I said earlier, we can't replace everybody, and Balogun's never really let us down. I agree with you, he should have been a starting centre back, but I think it's good business regarding. He's not going to break the bank. He'll come in, he'll do a job. You can see he fights for the jersey. He likes to see how much he wants to give when he's on the park, and I think it's decent that Clement's got him there, because if Cordoba does come in, hopefully Golson's away, you get Suter, Ben Davis will probably be away, and then you bring maybe somebody else in. That's 4 centre backs, and that's what you need. You need to grow for the back. You need new defenders. We need to start afresh, and Balogun, the backup choice, is fine for me. It's there. He won't break the bank. He knows the league, and when he does play, he's never really let us down.
Won't break the bank, Brian. Knows the league. I wouldn't imagine he'll be on a great deal of money. Is this actually a sensible move from the board?
As Kerr's just said, the amount of players that would be losing and the out of contract players, he's probably the one that's the least sort of risk player. He's not on a big wage. As you guys have said, he's never let us really down that badly. And he enjoys playing for the club. So out of everybody that's leaving, he's the guy that is the least risk, and a position that we're kind of shy in, and we'll always shy in, I think, by the summer. So he's worth of as Fickle McSelfish is saying, he's he's worth a year. You know what I mean? He's worth a year deal. So
some of the names are fantastic.
I know.
Some of the
I actually had
names
to read it twice because I thought, am I reading that correct? But yeah, it's, he's worth a year. He's never let us down in the past, so, and he's not on a big wage, so no. I'm fair enough for that.
I mean, KW, Connor, just to finish on it, Balogun deserves another year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with the lads are saying there as well. I think having him about the club will be a good thing. I think, it's funny because for all we've had many criticisms labelled at our players this season and at our back line, very few have been for Leon Balogun. Very, very few. And that tells you a lot because he hasn't really stepped much of a foot wrong. Sure, yeah, there's maybe one or two you could point to, but I think he has at least earned that right. And as a backup, and I think that's the key thing, and I think we'd all agree with that, not necessarily your first choice starter, but as a backup, that's not a bad option to have there. Without doubt. I mean, listen, he was brought in this season as a fourth choice or something like that when Beale brought him back. And he was that for the first part of the season. He never did get played, and then all the injuries come in and he's in the team. So, having somebody who is ready, willing and able to come in when they're required is important. I also think, actually, see the attitude of him. The fact that he spent so long when he first came in, knowing he's fourth, fifth choice, no getting played, he still kept his fitness up because when he needed to be called upon, he was ready. That's important because we were talking about it earlier about injuries and fitness. Balogun's been doing that without playing a lot.
Aye.
I'm sure he's ready. That shows a good mentality to me. So why not give him another year and have him in around there if he's needed, because it's a long old season. You play a lot of games. I'd rather have that than no have the option there at all.
The ability that guy has just to get right up to speed after not playing is incredible. I will 100% give you that. Right, folks. Unless, of course, there's any breaking news, which there very well may be. We are now taking at least a 1 week, if not a 2 week break from our regular Monday night show, unless anything changes. And like I say, the member shows will continue throughout, and we'll be releasing wee video clips here and there on YouTube and stuff like that. We'll get some debates and that on the go, we'll do stuff for the Euros over the summer as well. So we're not disappearing totally. We're just all having a wee break, all having a wee holiday.
And just a quick reminder that the Scottish Football Show End of Season Awards special is on Sunday night at 7:30. So just a reminder to the folks in the chat that will be on. We're just going to have a laugh and dissect the whole season and dole out the awards, even if a lot of them won't be for Rangers players.
Well, yeah. And I mean, Heather, every time you say that, Martin, something happens and you have to come back early. That's very true. That's why I'm saying it. So that something does happen. And yes, KW at a hiatus. Yes, absolutely. So listen, thank you to everybody who's tuned in the whole season. The reason that we do this is so that we can give you some content that hopefully you enjoy, whether you agree, disagree, whether you want to jump through your TV, computer, or whatever it is and strangle us, or whether you want to shake our hands and say, no, I agree with you. As we do this for you, so I hope you enjoy. So thank you for all your support throughout this whole season. It's been immense. We've surpassed 10,000 subscribers and the views have been through the roof. It's been phenomenal. And we keep going from strength to strength, and that's all down to you. So thank you very much. So whatever platform you're watching on, if it's on YouTube, please do give the video a like. Get in the comments after the show. That helps to boost the algorithm thing, and subscribe and all that good stuff, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. So all that's left for me to do is say thank you to Connor, Kerr and Bryan. Thank you very much, gents. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. And we will speak to you all, hopefully, very, very soon. Oh, wait, whoa. Brian. What?
Super chat from Jim Sloan. See, I
forgot
Jim, his name last time.
Somebody always does this to me, by the way, as soon as I'm about to leave. So thank you very much, Brian. Jim is, up there for one of the members of the year. Shit season, great pod. Follow, lads. Thank you so much, Jim. And thank you, Brian, for alerting me to it. Jim, along with so many others, have been so good for us this season with the support they give us. And believe me, it all goes to good use, and it all goes to help making this podcast better. So thank you all, folks. So we will speak to you all very, very soon. Good night.
Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.